Hey guys, hope you can hear me now. Had to change mics. I don't know if the mic on the camera here blew out or something like that. It's kind of weird. But again, welcome to this midweek edition of Topics on My Mind for today, the 15th of July, 2020. It is about 6:42 p.m. And yes, I am off today. I did not work today, but I am off. I would have done this earlier, except there was you have to at this time of year I have to work around certain scheduling and stuff, and it just it's just one of those situations to where you just gotta work with what you got. You know what I'm saying? Work around the scheduling that you have, and usually, of course, some of you may know or may not know, may know, I should say, is I usually try to do this early in the morning. I try to usually do it early in the morning. Um, if I'm working later in the day, I try to do it early in the morning before anybody else gets up in the household, or I try to do it at least, um, or I try to do something at least to kind of provide some content and everything to everybody here. But with that said, let's talk about the topics we're going to discuss here today. And again, hopefully, you guys can hear me. I probably should have done this, even when I got the camera here, because the mic works great, but I don't know if it's just a connection issue or what. So my apologies. So I'll probably be utilizing this, if not my headset, down the line as well when it comes to the live streams, instead of just relying on the mic on the camera. Because that's what I did with the camera here on the laptop before I got this one. But anyway, let's talk about the topics we're going to discuss here today as I get ready to link this up. So, as I get ready to link this up here, hold on. Let's link this up a little bit, guys. But like I said, we have several topics we're going to talk about today. We have several topics we're going to talk about today, or this evening, I should say. Uh, as soon as I can, so there we go. Okay. So, again, I'm going to link this up here for a second. Hold on. So, anyway, though, like I said, let's talk about some topics here. And the first topic, and in case you guys are wondering why, like the first time I did the live stream and had my voice and then it went out, I think the mic may have gone out or something may have happened. I'm thinking that because the computer is getting ready to do its monthly update, anybody that has Windows 10 knows about that. And it probably was doing an update and it probably knocked it out or something. But I'll probably rely on this, like I said, rely on this and the headset from now on, and maybe test this out once in a while, see if it's okay, or if it is workable. But anyway, the first topic we're going to talk about today, in case you guys have been paying attention to local, if not national news, the first thing we want to talk about today, the first topic, I should say, out of six, because there are six topics. The first one we're going to talk about today is hospital data on the virus, if you will, to now be sent directly to Trump administration instead of CDC. That's right. You heard me right. That's news that's been making rounds today, that hospital data on the virus to now be sent directly to Trump administration instead of CDC. And I'll get into why that is, but let me just say honestly that people are not, let's just put it this way, people are not happy with the CDC. And I'll put it this way, you think people are not happy with WHO, the World Health Organization, people are not as happy with the CDC. I mean, they may not be as upset as as they are with the CDC or anything. I'm not saying that. You know, like I said, they may not be as upset with the CDC, um, as they are with WHO, but still, it's like one of those situations to where the Trump administration and people around there are like, yeah, enough's enough. We need to basically. Sorry about that. I don't know why it froze there. I think the picture just stopped. Well, whatever. No, it's because I was going from one area to another. I think that's what it was. But like I said, basically, the Trump administration is now going to receive the hospital data on the virus directly instead of the CDC. All right. Then the second topic we're going to talk about, Irate Gamer versus AVGN, the crossover everybody's been waiting for 13 years. Collab review on the Dick Tracy NES game finally dropped today at 1 p.m. Pacific time and is already at 22K and counting. That's 22,000 views and counting. I will talk about that and where I think it may end up as far as crossovers go and the viewership they get. Number 3, the third topic we'll talk about today is Velma Dinkley and Spongebob SquarePants outed as LGBTQ and more to be outed soon. We'll talk about that. And then number 4, we're going to talk about the 2000 comic book film X-Men. Yes, X-Men from the year 2000. We'll talk about it and its celebration of 20 years in existence. We'll talk about that. I'll even get my own personal experience with the movie. And then number 5, HDMI cables to replace the original cables for SNES, TurboGrafx, PS2, etc. We'll talk about that and how I will be playing into that starting tomorrow, hopefully. And then number 6, this is more of a questionable topic that a lot of friends online have been asking me, and that is, why don't I watch movies or read comics when I initially get them? So we'll talk about that as well as we go on. So anyway, let's get into the top. So anyway, let's get into the videos here, or into the topics here. And again, hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Again, I think the mic on this may have either blown out or something, which again, as long as the picture is good, mics from another source are usually good. And I think that's why they always recommend it. It's like, they recommend you guys, or they recommend people that do live streams or something like that, or videos off the computer. They recommend them using an external source instead of the internal source. So I don't know if it blew out or maybe it was something that I'm guessing, because like I said, the computer's getting ready to do that monthly update with Windows, and it may have loaded something and it just said, oh, I'm done, enough, I'm gone, so I don't know. But anyway, let's get into the first topic here. And the first topic, of course, is hospital data on the virus to now be sent directly to Trump administration instead of CDC. Now, I'm going to do my best to explain, what I understand about this. Basically, the CDC, of course, they're usually the main hub for getting a lot of data on a lot of diseases and hospitalizations, as I adjust the filter here and everything. But they're mainly known for getting a lot of data on hospitalizations, whether it's hospitalizations for injuries, pneumonia, any kind of flu, or in this case, viruses or certain viruses. They're usually the ones that keep count on these. They usually are what I'm trying to say is they're usually, from what I understand, the ones that keep count on how many are being affected or how many are in the hospital you know, and what they can do to be. And I guess by using that data, that numeral data, I should say, they try to come up with maybe a solution or a vaccine or some kind of antibody or something. Well, apparently they haven't been doing their job, and the Trump administration has taken notice of this. Of course, our president, Donald Trump, depending on how you feel about him, has taken notice about this and has said enough's enough. From now on, hospitals are going to send their data on the virus directly to Trump administration, because I think, in my opinion, what's going on is they want they want to have a second look, is my opinion. My opinion is the Trump administration, the president, and those around him, they want to have a second look at whether or not the CDC is telling the truth about these hospital numbers, or some of these are being over exaggerated or being doubled. In other words, let's say you're a patient in the hospital because of the virus, but let's say you are on the mend. Let's say you're on the mend of being removed from the hospital because of the virus. You're on the mend, you're on the recovery road, if you will. And you're counted basically as one of those positive cases, right? Well, let's say they count you, but then all of a sudden they count you again, but you don't know it. And all of a sudden you might wonder down the line, once you're out of the hospital or whatever, you might wonder, okay, why was I? And you start hearing maybe about certain numbers coming out of that hospital you were in. You might wonder, you might wonder and ask, oh, again, like I said, you might wonder and ask, were you one of those numbers that was counted twice? Or were you one of the patients that was counted twice that had the virus, that tested positive for the virus? Were you one of those people? Were you counted just once, as you should be, or were you counted twice? Or that's what I'm getting. I'm sorry if I'm stumbling over my words here, but that's the feeling I'm getting. That's the clue I'm getting. You know, that's the clue I'm getting. I don't know whether or not you guys agree with that, but that's kind of the idea. That's kind of what I'm getting from this. So, that again, that's what I'm getting at this. And again, this is all coming from different sources. New York Times, depending on whether or not you believe them. Okay. Okay, so you got various sources here, and a lot of them are saying basically the same thing, from USA Today, CNN, New York Times, CBS News, and they're all saying basically that Trump administration, NPR, Time, Fox News, and Fox News, which a lot of people feel is more reliable right now because they seem to tell the truth a little bit more. Basically, this is what Fox News says. This is what Fox News says, and I quote, if I can get it. Hold on, guys. Fox News is reporting that the data hospitals collect on the virus. Almost said it there, because again, I'm not too sure if we can say that word or not. But it says the data hospitals collect on the virus, on the patients with the virus, will now be rerouted to the Trump administration instead of first being sent to the U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta, according to reports. Okay. Okay, let me repeat that. Let me read that. It says the data hospitals collect on the virus, patients with the virus, will now be sent directly or be rerouted to the Trump administration instead of first being sent to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in Atlanta. That's according to some reports. It says here, continuing on, and I quote, and this is from Fox News. Starting Wednesday, hospitals have been instructed to bypass the CDC and send daily patient information directly to a central database operated by the Department of Health and Human Services in Washington, D.C. A Health and Human Service spokesman by the name of Michael told the New York Times, which first reported the shift, that the new, faster, and complete data system is what our nation needs to defeat the virus, and the CDC, an operating division of HHS, will certainly participate in this streamline of all government response. They will simply no longer control it. Continuing on, and I quote, today the CDC still has at least a week lag. It says, continuing on, I quote, today the CDC still has a, okay, let me reread that. Okay, I can read here. It says, today the CDC still has at least a week lag in reporting hospital data. That's what the spokesman said, or Michael said in a statement. America requires it in real time. So basically there's the reasoning right there. Basically, what it's stemming from, the reason the change is happening is because the CDC is far behind. So in other words, they're saying, okay, right now, here and now, cases have gone down. Instead, they're taking a week-old data and they're saying let's say cases are up instead of maybe cases are down. And I think that's why the Trump administration wants to take control. It goes on to say, and I quote, the data will be used to inform decisions at the federal level, including the acquisition of personal protective gear, the drug remersive, and other supplies, treatments, and resources, according to a document on the Health and Human Service website. It goes on to say that critics claim the change will hinder the work of medical researchers, modelers. Okay, continuing on, this is what the rest of the article says, and I quote, critics claim the change will hinder the work of medical researchers, modelers, and officials because unlike other virus data published by the CDC, the data stored by Health and Human Services will not be readily accessible by the public. Michael said the CDC data will still be made public. So basically to counter the fact that critics are saying, oh, it won't be available to the public, the spokesman, Michael, is saying it will. Continuing on, it says, in an op-ed published Tuesday in the Washington Post, 4 former CDC directors who served during both Republican and Democratic administrations accused Trump and top virus task force officials of politicizing scientific data released by the National Public Health Institution. Okay, I guess this is what they're saying when they're criticizing Trump about this, along with some of the task force members. It says, this is what they say, and I quote, we cannot recall over our collective tenure a single time when political pressure led to a change in the interpretation of scientific evidence. This is what they said, claiming, and they said this, claiming public. Okay, they wrote this claiming public health experts now face 2 opponents: the virus but also political leaders and others attempt to undermine the CDC. So again, it's one of those situations. And it goes on to, let's see, it also says that unfortunately their sound science is being challenged with partisan pot shots, sowing confusion and mistrust at a time when the American people need leadership, expertise, and clarity, the opt said. These efforts have been fueled. These efforts have even fueled a backlash against public health officials across the country. Public servants have been harassed, threatened, and forced to resign when we need them most. This is unconscionable and dangerous. And it's got a lot more it talks about here. So yeah, basically, yeah, and but basically, yeah, I'll provide the link to the Fox thing in the thing for you guys. Hold on. But yeah, basically, when I look at it, what I'm getting out of this, yeah, what I'm getting out of this, guys, is what I'm getting out of this is basically a lot of there's just basically what it is just a delay is what it sounds like. It sounds like it's just a delay. And hello, Wild Hops, good to see you. But yeah, it's just a delay apparently on their part, and a lot of people are not too and the Trump administration's not too happy with the delay. It's like people need results, and they need results like right now. They need those results. They can't wait or anything. And yeah, that's what's going on there. That's my interpretation from it. That's my interpretation that basically it's a it's basically the CDC is not bringing things to the forefront when they should. Like if cases are down instead of being reported as up, they should be reporting that more so than anything, or just at the same time they're reporting the up in cases. Like, okay, you're going to report an up in cases, okay, fine, but what about those? What about the cases that are down? And I think that's what's one of the things that's really getting on people's nerves is there's no real report balancing things out. And I'll be right back, guys. Sorry about that. I'll be right back. Gotta do something real quickly. Be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. If I balance this out here a little bit. There we go. Hopefully, you guys can still hear me. Again, like I said, I don't know what happened with the mic that I have on my new webcam. I think either the computer is getting ready to set up for the update, because it'll do that, or it just blew out finally. I don't know. The picture still works, so that's all that matters. And again, like I said earlier, they do recommend sometimes just using an external mic to do your live streams on anyway. So just that there. Okay. So anyway, let's move that there. But anyway, like I said, basically that's the initial feeling I'm getting out of it. That basically the Trump administration's like, look, enough's enough. You guys have had plenty of time to give us the data, give us what we need to know about, give the people what they need to know about, and yet apparently they're not giving it in enough. They're not giving it on time. In other words, like what we're talking about here in California is the spike in cases, right, which is resulting in another semi shutdown for I don't know a couple of days, weeks, I don't know. But anyway, that's basically what I think the Trump administration, Donald Trump, and again, depending on how you feel about him, and others have been saying that, you know, you're talking about this rise in cases and around the country, but from what we're understanding, that data could be a week old, and you're not using like current data. It's like you're using data from the past, but you're not using current data. And I think that's what caused the shift, if you will. That's what caused the shift um, in the decision basically to say, okay, enough playing around. We need real results. We need real time results, if you will. Finishing up my coffee there. Let me just put that over here. Just checking something real quickly. Just checking something, guys. Hold on. I'm just checking something. But yeah, that's basically again though, getting back to what I was saying, that's kind of the thing I'm getting here. It's kind of the feeling that I'm getting basically. It's kind, like I said, that's kind of the feeling I'm getting. Feeling, if you will, that basically it's all about a delay. Like, the CDC is not, like snapping to it, like, hey, come on, quick, let's go, 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 go. Give us those results. And I understand some people might say, oh, the Trump administration, I know what I'm trying to say is I know some people might criticize the Trump administration, like some of the people in politics and at the CDC and all that are doing. And some might say, oh, Trump just wants the numbers so he can say, oh, see, it's down and we're okay. We can reopen. Da, 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 da. And if that's how you feel, that's your opinion, fine. That's totally fine. But again, it's mostly basically, in my opinion, it's mostly from what it's simply basically, it's simply a case of the CDC's falling behind. Is what it's going on. The CDC is falling behind, and in a time like this, you don't need to be falling behind, especially if you're one of the, if not the important factors in trying to slow this virus down, to try to, give either positive hope and all that when it comes to, okay, are the numbers down or are they up? What's going on? So I think that's why the administration wants to take control now, because it's like, look, CDC, you had your chance. World Health Organization, you had your chance. Now we're taking control because you ain't telling the truth. You ain't, you know, being on time with your results. If you know what I mean. So again, that's the feeling I'm getting out of this. That basically it's all about, depending on whether or not you believe it or you don't, it's all depending on whether or not, basically, it's all dependent on getting the results here and now. And I think that's all that really matters. So, yeah, basically, that's what I'm getting out of it. Just reading that article, I linked it. under the topic, so you guys can click on it, read it yourself later on. But that's the feeling I'm getting, that basically this whole ordeal, this whole change of, instead of going to the CDC, now they're going to bypass and go directly to Trump administration in the Human Health Services there, the HHS, that it's all about getting real time results, like not relying on results that are about a week old, a week behind, but right here and there. Like if you have a case, if you have numbers, real. If you, it's like let's say Stanislaus County right now could announce, oh, the hospitals, and let's say Stanislaus County could say, okay, here's the number of hospitalizations, or here's the number of recoveries, and da da da. Instead of waiting a week to say, okay, this is the number of cases of hospitalizations we have here in Stanislaus County, and here's the number of the recovery. Instead of waiting a week, instead of waiting a week, what I'm understanding here is they want results they can give out within the next 24 hours, 12 to 24, maybe 48 hours. That's what they want to do. That's what I'm understanding. I don't know about you guys, but that's what I'm understanding. But anyway, though, that's really all I can say on the first topic. Again, let me know what you guys think about it in the live chat if you're joining me in the live chat, or let me know what you guys think about it down below in the comments after this live stream is done. So, with that said, let's move on to our next topic. And our next topic has to do with a crossover that was 13 years in the making. Chris Bors recently did a live stream update on the premiere, on the on the collab that premiered today. Pat Cortair and Ian Ferguson of CU Podcast talked about it, and one of the not the recent one that just dropped yesterday, but the previous one before that of the CU Podcast, which I recommend checking out. He talked about it, but yes, as of today, the Irate Gamer versus AVGN crossover Dick Tracy NES review took place today. It is already, at the last I saw of it, at 22K and counting. Now, is it going to surpass 22K? Absolutely. 22K being 22,000, it's absolutely going to surpass that number. There's no doubt in my mind it's going to surpass it. No doubt in my mind it's going to surpass that number. You know why? Because to me, it's a big enough, to me, this is a big enough crossover that fans have been waiting to see this happen for quite some time, that now we're finally getting it, and a lot of people couldn't be oops, wrong one. People couldn't be more happy from what they are seeing, or from what they saw. Now I haven't watched it fully. I did catch, like, I would say, the final 5 to 10 minutes, so I have to watch it in full. But apparently it's good. Apparently it's supposed to be really good, and a lot of people, like I said, are actually happy that this occurred, that this finally happened. And what I'm getting out of it, even though, like I said, I caught the last 5 to 10 minutes, it's a competition. It's a competition between both James and it's a competition basically between both James and between the AVGN and James. That's what I'm getting out of it. It's like a competition between the two. It's a competition between the two. So that's what I'm getting out of it. Like I said, that's what I'm kind of getting out of it here. Is it's a competition to see who could beat the NES Dick Tracy game faster than the other, because apparently the NES Dick Tracy game is known notoriously for being a very hard game. and I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody would disagree. So yeah, basically, that's what I'm getting out of it. It's a competition between the two, um, to see who can beat the game before the other. And it's got a unique ending. I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but it's got a unique ending to where it's like you'd be like, oh, that's typical nerd, you know, it's typical nerd. But yeah, it's got an ending that it'll probably make you laugh. It'll probably make you laugh or something like that. But yeah, actually it actually looked good. I'll put it that way. And it's just something that again I have to watch in full, but those final 5 to 10 minutes that I caught, I thought were done really well. And I'll probably do a review on it after I watch it to give you my thoughts on it. But yeah, 22 Ks in just what 6 hours? That's pretty good. I know some people are saying, well, this is now. I know some people might say, well, this is a crossover we've been waiting for a while. Why isn't there more views? You got to realize when it premiered. It premiered at 1 p.m. Now, true, it's the summer. It is the summer and everything, but and a lot of people should be home. But like I said, it premiered at 1 p.m. Pacific, which is 2 Mountain, 3 Central, 4 Eastern, um, 11 Hawaiian, and I think 12 Alaskan time. I'm not really sure, but you would say, but like, what I'm trying to get at is you would probably be like, well, shouldn't have got more views. Well, that's what I'm trying to get at because I'm trying to think about what I'm gonna how I'm gonna explain that. I'm sorry, but basically, I think it's because it wasn't premiering in the evening. That's what I'm getting at. It didn't premiere in the evening, and if it premiered in the evening, honestly, I think it would have gotten a lot more views right off the bat. Like the 22K, it would have gotten during its initial live premiere. Like as it's happening, it would have gotten those views. But yeah, the Irate Gamer versus AVGN crossover, like I said, it's been something that a lot of people have been been waiting um, for quite some time. You know, it's like because both of them are both. I'll put it this way: the history between both is a unique one because a lot of people would look at um, a lot of people would look at basically, they would look at Chris when he started out as the irate gamer and be like, man, he's real similar, if not identical, to what James does as the AVGN. So a lot of people would be kind of criticizing Chris for being like a ripoff, but then Chris over time still kept being the irate gamer, but he started to do reviews of games that normally you wouldn't think James, as the angry video game nerd, would do. And he would make it more creative. He would get more creative with them, and then he would expand. He would expand what he's doing by going into the irate the 80s segments. He would do a history of video games, stuff like that. Um, so you know he so he would so basically to differentiate himself, he would go in different directions, if you know what I mean. He would go in different directions. He would go in different directions. Like he did, like I said, um he would like I said, he would do different do he would do different things. Like sometimes he would do unboxings for what was it? What was that one thing that was like that's similar to Amiibos? Skylander. He would do Skylander videos, basically unboxing them, talking about them. He'd do the same with Minecraft. He would do all kinds of things that would differentiate him a little bit from James's AVGN character. So yeah, even though there could have been similarities, he did things that made it different. He did things that were completely different that no one else that's kind of an angry reviewer would think about doing. So he would kind of go in different directions, if you know what I mean. So yeah, anyway, getting on point here. This is a crossover that's been in the making, well, not just in the making for 13 years, but it's a crossover fans have been waiting for 13 years. It's like, when are we going to get this crossover? When are we going to get Irate Gamer, AVGN? When are we going to get it? Because we've seen AVGN crossover with Nostalgia Critic. We've seen them cross over with Alpha Omega Sin. I think he did something like that. I'm not really sure. Heck, when he did his Aladdin Upper Deck, he did his Aladdin enhanced deck. His Aladdin, what was it? It was the Aladdin deck enhancer. When he did a review on that, he crossed over in a way. He crossed over cameos or appearances by Gaming Historian, Shane from Riz. Who else did he have? But he had a variety of notable video game reviewers, some that we may or may not heard of until they appeared in that video at the end. I think he even had the what was it, Stop Skeletons Gaming or something like that. They had them in there. So yeah, he had all kinds of different reviewers crossing over, especially at the end when he had wished when his last wish was for all the deck enhancers to be destroyed. So we had that kind of a crossover. But like I said, he's also crossed over with the likes of Pat Cortair, the NES punk. He's even had celebrity crossovers with Macaulay Culkin, Gilbert Gottfried, if you will, just to name a few. So he's had some notable crossovers, even with some of the creators themselves. Like the guy that did Toxic Crusaders crossed over with him. So he's had some crossovers. There's no doubt. He's had some crossovers and stuff. But the one that was most notable out of all of those was the very first crossover he did, which was with Nostalgia Critic Doug Walker. So even though he made like a cameo appearance, what was it, in a review that Lewis Lovehog did on, I think it was the Wolverine game, because there was some kind of like a deal that he and Noah Atwater, formerly known as Spoonie, made, where Spoonie would do a comic book review and Nankara had to do a video game review. So I think he made an appearance at the end of that one when Nankara would be, I don't know if it was a scene in the movie in the game where he was like, "Adamantium Rage," and he goes out the hotel out the door of the hotel room he's in, and then he appears right in front of the nerd, and he's like, "Adamantium Rage," and then boom, the nerd James knocks him out. So yeah, he's had crossovers like that. In fact, the other crossover he did with Nostalgia Critic, which was noted, was he did a double crossover, actually two crossovers, on the recent Ninja Turtle movies that came out over the past several years. The first one, and then Out of the Shadows. The Out of the Shadows one had him crossing over not just with Nostalgia Critic Doug Walker, but with Andre Meadows of Black Nerd Comedy. So again, very notable times he's crossed over with people, even celebrities. So that was kind of cool. So what I'm trying to say is those were kind of cool moments. But again, out of all of them, the most notable crossover before this one with Chris's character was nostalgia critic Doug Walker, because both were similar with the respect, both being very angry and critical of the respective genres. You know, Doug's character would criticize on movies and shows in a similar way that James's AVGN character would criticize video games. So it only made sense for them to eventually cross over and do something that I think they knew fans were going to enjoy. Now, the ending does kind of, I'm not going to say much, but it does kind of allude to maybe more crossing over with between the two down the line. So we'll have to, as I say in a lot of my videos, wait and see. But again, I haven't yet watched the whole thing, but when I do, I'm probably going to do a review on it. But yeah, it premiered today, and last I checked, it was at 22K. Let me see if I can refresh that and see where it's at right now. It's at 24K now, 24,000 plus maybe, and going up. And that's just in the span, like I said, of 6 hours. 6 hours plus. But like I said, this is what people have been wanting. They've been wanting this review, this crossover to occur. And maybe it'll lead to more collaborations between Chris as the irate gamer, and maybe we'll see Chris cross over with Nostalgia Critic. Because again, the ending, not to give much away, there's a reaction on behalf of a lot of people online, fans and notable internet reviewers. And one of the last reactions that we see is from Channel Awesome. So it makes you wonder if maybe we'll get Nostalgia Critic and Irate Gamer. That would be something to look forward to if it occurs. But yeah, it dropped today, and even though I didn't catch all of it, I will be watching it. But again, this is a crossover people have been waiting to see, and I highly recommend, if you've not seen it, tune in and watch it. I think you guys will. I think you guys will appreciate what you will see out of this, because I guarantee you, I was happy this happened, even though I didn't get to watch all of it initially. And I'm sure a lot of you will be happy that it happened as well. But yeah, today at 1 p.m., 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 Eastern, the crossover dropped, and from what I can tell, it was a huge smash hit. In fact, it's been a smash hit in a lot of people's eyes for the past month, ever since it was announced. Since the trailer dropped and Chris did the live stream update, it's been on people's radar when it comes to crossovers between reviewers of any kind. It's been on their radars for the past month or so. So I'm happy that they did it, and hopefully this will lead to more collaborations for Chris with other internet reviewers down the line, and maybe we'll see a follow-up. Apparently that's what I can understand that they may be hinting at, not give much away, but they may be hinting at a follow-up between the two down the line. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the crossover. Let me know if you saw it. Don't give much away, but let me know what you guys thought about it. And let's move on to our third topic, shall we? And our third topic is a very interesting one. In fact, it was something that got announced not just this week, but over the past few weeks, if not the past month. And that is, two notable characters in animation history have been outed as LGBTQ. Those are Velma Dinkley of the Scooby-Doo fame and SpongeBob SquarePants. Now, let's talk about SpongeBob for a second. I think we all kind of knew. Let's be honest. Let's be honest, folks. I think we all kind of knew that SpongeBob was, I'll say, well, I don't want to, was gay. I'll just say he was gay. We pretty much knew he had LGBTQ tendencies, the way he would act towards his friends on the show. Not just, well, you would think, okay, he has this crush on Sandy that shouldn't make him LGBTQ, right? Well, that's up for debate. I mean, you could probably say he's anosexual or bisexual or whatever. But last month, which was, I think, Pride Month, pretty much the creators came out and said, yeah, SpongeBob, he's LGBTQ. He's gay. So, I mean, so yeah, I don't think it came as much as a surprise. In fact, and what I'm trying to say is I don't think it came as much as a surprise to a lot of people when that got revealed. In fact, some of the comments some of the comments I would see online would be like, "Who knew?" or "What a surprise." All these memes would just pop up like, "Who knew?" or "What a surprise." Basically, they'd be, and these memes obviously will be, these memes, what I'm trying to say, these memes are obviously being utilized in a sarcastic way, as if people are trying to say, yeah, we kind of figured that, we kind of already knew that. Because honestly, when, again, you look at how he acts towards his friends, with the exception of Sandy in earlier episodes, if not later seasons and all that, from what people have said and from what's been teased and showcased, um yeah, you can kind of tell he was that way, if you will. Again, now, nothing against that. Nothing against that. Let me make that perfectly clear. Nothing against that. I have family members, cousins, if you will, and friends that are LGBTQ. So nothing against that. Nothing against that. Okay? Nothing against that. No offense. But honestly, I think even the LGBTQ community kind of knew that he was that way. Kind of knew that SpongeBob was that way. Again, no offense. No offense. I mean that with no offense, okay? No offense. God knows I don't mean any offense by that. But yeah, we kind of knew. I think a lot of people kind of knew he was LGBTQ. And like I said, a lot of people would come out with the memes of who knew, or what a surprise, or they would come up with the memes of like, they would come up with meme pictures with the wording like, yeah, this is old news, or we already knew that, or whatever. So yeah, it wasn't. So yeah, it was. I'll put it this way: it was nice of Nickelodeon and the creators behind the show to at least come out and finally acknowledge that, yeah, our main character is gay. He is LGBTQ. He is this way, if you will. Again, no offense. No offense. Um, but yeah, a lot of fans, when this got announced, they were like, yeah, tell us something we don't know. Tell us something we didn't already know. Because that's basically how they felt. It's like, yeah, we kind of knew that already. Tell us something we don't know. Tell us something that is unexpected. Tell us something that's going to shock us. You know, because to them, this isn't shocking news. This is not shocking news, if you will. It's not. It's not. It's not shocking news whatsoever. It's not shocking news whatsoever, because, like I said, and again, no offense when I say this, no offense, okay? But I think a lot of people knew he was kind of in that way. He was kind of like, like this a little bit. Again, no offense, no offense. All right? God knows I don't mean any offense. But like I said, I think a lot of people, even those in the LGBTQ community, kind of knew that, yes, yeah, SpongeBob, he's gay. He's a he's a he, what's what I'm he's up. Basically, they knew that anytime someone would use the GIF or the clip of SpongeBob going with the rainbow imagination, I think a lot of people pretty much knew that that was his own way, or the studio's own way of saying, yeah, he's gay. and all that. So again, like I said, no offense. I don't mean any offense by this. Lord, forgive me if I mean any offense. I do apologize, God. In your name I pray, Lord, please forgive me. I don't mean any offense. In your name I pray. Amen. But like I said, no offense when I say that. But yeah, I think we all kind of knew, even members of the LGBTQ community kind of knew that SpongeBob was gay. He was pretty much, you know, either bisexual or anal sexual or just plain out gay. That's what it was. And again, no offense when I say that. No offense. But I think a lot of people kind of knew that. I think they all figured that out basically pretty much a long time ago. Pretty much a long time ago. In fact, you want to know how far back it goes? That people probably knew that SpongeBob was gay, he was LGBTQ. Go back to the first SpongeBob movie. Go back to that scene where SpongeBob and Patrick temporarily dry up and die. I want you to notice the I want you to notice the symbol that their tears that flows out of them before they dry up forms. I want you to notice the shape that their tears form, a heart. Now, some may say, "Oh, that's about friendship and them being close friends and all that." That's true. You could have had your opinion that that's what it meant at the time, but I think anybody, even back then, kind of saw that like as an indication of, yeah, they're both gay. Both SpongeBob and Patrick are gay. That I mean, it's too obvious. It was just honestly, folks, it was just too obvious to not see that. Even back then with the movie. So to me, I have to agree with a lot of fans that it's not much of a surprise. Wasn't much of a. What I'm trying to say is, it wasn't much of a surprise to anybody. Heck, when I read this, I was like, "Yeah, that isn't news." Who I think anybody pretty much. I mean, what I'm trying to get at, I'm trying to think about what I'm going to say. Is basically when I saw the revelation about this, to me, I was just like anybody else, whether they whether they were part of the LGBT community or not. Basically, I was like everybody on both sides of the spectrum, all together, and that was, yeah, we kind of figured that out a long time ago. It's like we kind of knew that because again, you look at his mannerisms throughout the series, even the specials and movies and all that. You look at all his mannerisms and you're like, yeah, he's probably most definitely gay. I don't think it was so again, I don't think it was much of a shock to anybody when it was finally officially revealed by the creators and by Nickelodeon that yeah, SpongeBob and maybe even and Patrick, both SpongeBob and Patrick, and maybe some of the other characters are LGBTQ. So I don't think it came as much of a surprise to anybody when that got revealed officially by Nickelodeon, by the creators of the show. I don't think it came as much of a surprise at all. I don't think so. But going to Velma Dinkley, that right there is kind of like, you know, Velma Velma's one of those characters that, depending on how she's portrayed, I would say would most likely be outed as LGBTQ. Maybe even as far as the beginning of the Scooby Doo franchise with Where Are You? But still, a lot of people were debatable about that because you would always see her hanging out or dancing with Shaggy, you know, or have some kind of hint that she was a straight individual. I mean, you take a look at the first two Scooby Doo movies, and it's like, yeah, she's she's straight. She's not LGBTQ like we was suspecting she was. But a recent article came out and said that the creators behind the hit animated Mystery Incorporated, which was one of the more recent animated adaptations of Scooby Doo, before what we got now with Scooby Doo. Guess Who? Um, what else was there? Scooby Doo and Shaggy, and all that. Be Cool Scooby Doo. Oh, even some of the animated films that came out afterwards. Uh, the creators, though, of Mystery Incorporated, which I liked, and a lot of people agree with, is probably one of the best adaptations of Scooby Doo. Period. They basically came out and said, "Yeah, our version of Velma, our Velma here in the series, she's LGBTQ." Now, a lot of people they heard this, and one of the arguments they would make is, "Well, wait a minute. She was dating Shaggy at the beginning of the show and still had interest in Shaggy even after they kind of broke up. Why is she LGBTQ now? Where did this come from?" And the explanation that's being given is she tried to go that straight route by dating Shaggy, which would explain why she was so aggressive to try to make out with him and all that. But as soon as they broke off and still remained friends, but then all of a sudden we brought Marcy into I think that was what her name. Yeah, ironically, her name was Marcy. And I know people are thinking, oh, does that mean Peppermint Patty and Marcy as Peanuts are the same way? I wouldn't be surprised if people try to get the Shorts family to out that as well. But anyway, yeah, as soon as her and Marcy were put together as friends in the show, it's basically like, as some people point out, it's almost like you look at the episodes they were involved in, you look at the interaction, if not the chemistry between the two, and it was obvious that yeah, these two are probably going to be together. They're probably. Oh, it was basically obvious that the show was trying to hint at Velma and Marcy probably becoming an item, but they didn't follow through on it. They didn't follow through on it when they could have. So yeah, Velma Dinkley, thanks to the creators of Mystery Incorporated, outed as an LGBTQ / gay / lesbian character. But the people behind Mystery Incorporated are not the only ones that out Velma Dinkley as being lesbian / LGBTQ. James Gunn, who helped work on the Scooby-Doo films, the first two Scooby-Doo films, also said that their version of Velma was gay. And again, you might say, well, wait a minute, hold the phone, beep, back it up. Isn't that portrayal of Velma straight for the fact that she's interested in guys? She ends up with a guy, with a man at the end of the first movie, or at least it's hinted at. And doesn't she end up with, what was it, Seth Rogen's character? At the end of Scooby-Doo 2, and it shows that she has interest throughout the film. Yeah, that's all true and everything. That is indeed true. But apparently, just like the Velma in Mystery Incorporated, her interest in men was just a cover-up or a facade to hide the fact that she's bisexual, if not, partially lesbian. Because again, it doesn't make sense for her. To me, it doesn't make sense for James Gunn to come out and say, yeah, all Velma was lesbian the whole time. How is she lesbian when she had a male love interest that she was hinted at she ended up with at the end of the first film, and another love interest in the second film that she ended up with as well, and she was flirting with or trying to flirt with and be suspicious of and all that throughout that film? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. But I guess from a theory standpoint, people could say that, but what I'm trying to say is from a theory standpoint, I guess people can point out and say, yeah, that's probably just a cover up. Just like with Mystery Incorporated, it's probably a cover up. But here's the thing. Mystery Incorporated came out years after the first two live action Scooby-Doo movies. So it doesn't make any sense. So my only thought is this. I can believe more of the Mystery Incorporated deal over James Gunn's statement about it. Because I think all James Gunn is doing is trying to get publicity and attention on the first two movies so that people can go back and check them out. That's just my opinion. Just my opinion. Again, it just doesn't make any sense for Velma to be outed as LGBTQ when it comes to those first two films, when it's clearly shown that's not really the case. But again, some may argue that her being interested and her having these love interests was just a cover up, just like we see later on in Mystery Incorporated. And that might be true. But again, I'm more lenient to believe the Mystery Incorporated answer or revelation than the James Gunn one. And that's just my opinion. But since we're on this topic, we also have to ask, and you see it next to the topic anyway, are there going to be more to be outed? In other words, will there be more fictional characters that will be outed by the creators down the line? Now, what's ironic about a lot of these outings of characters of being LGBTQ, it's not because of Pride Month last month, or it's not because of what's going on right now in the world, but I think it has to really do with what we got out of some of the recent animated series. And I was just checking something there. Out of some of the recent animated series that we got, courtesy of services like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, you name it. And that is the fact that a lot of these animated series, especially towards the end, if not in the middle of it or at the end, like I said, revealed the characters as being LGBTQ. A prime example of that, of course, is She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. It was pretty much hinted at, if not thrown in your face throughout the series, that there was something between Catra and Adora that was more than friendship. Oh, that went beyond more than just friendship. And obviously we got that answer, in the final episode when Catra, obviously in the moment of redemption, her and Adora, they end up kissing. And and again, it may have come off as a surprise to a lot of people, but for those that obviously saw the clues and everything, it shouldn't have come off as that much of a surprise. But apparently it was enough of a reactional moment that a lot of other studios, obviously, like Nickelodeon, like Warner Brothers, a lot of the people behind some of the properties finally decided, you know what? If they're going to reveal that the two characters, the two friends or former friends or whatever are more than that towards each other, then why not just come out and say the same thing about all other characters? It's just my opinion on that. But getting back on the topic here, from what I could tell, it all has to do with the fact that when the new She-Ra series, the She-Ra series on Netflix, the Netflix DreamWorks She-Ra series, did that moment, finally acknowledged on screen that moment. I think that to me was the triggering point for a lot of studios, as I mentioned, to make the decision to finally just acknowledge what a lot of fans knew about certain characters. Like, I think it triggered the people at Nickelodeon behind the SpongeBob series to come out and say, yeah, SpongeBob, Patrick, and some other characters here in the series, they're LGBTQ, just as you suspected for the longest time. So here, we're going to make it official. So it's basically very obvious. And but basically it's very obvious why, that kind of helped trigger these sudden revelations with other shows that have been out for years, if not decades. Another show that seems to be probably heading in that direction, of course, is Kipo. They're heading with two of their characters. It seems to be they seem to be heading in that direction as well. But it makes you wonder, though, what other shows, what other creators behind certain shows over the past couple of years, past decade or several decades, are going to come out and say, "Yeah, you know how that character act, you know how this certain character on our show acted a certain way or acted this way or that way. It's because they were LGBTQ, but we weren't sure how to address that back then. But now we're just going to come out and say it." So who knows? Who knows how many creators might end up doing that in the long run because of, in my opinion, Netflix and DreamWorks' Shira doing what they did with Katra and Adora. Because again, I think that's what triggered this whole situation. Now, some of you might say, "Well, Legend of Korra kind of triggered it, right?" In a sense, yeah, but not really, because what was going on with Legend of Korra, from what I can understand, is I because they revealed this basically moments after the series or days after the series was over, that obviously they wanted to acknowledge Korra, and I can't think of her name right now, as being lovers, being lesbians, being love interests, and all that LGBTQ. But because of the environment we were in at that time, where it was still sort of taboo, it was sort of like, yeah, you don't want to do that because you might get us in trouble, kind of deal. They just kind of basically threw hints. Like they threw little Easter eggs and hints at it, but they didn't go any further than that. They didn't full out acknowledge it, until later on. You know what I'm saying? Um, but yeah, they waited at least until the show was over, and they had no more um, acknowledgement or no more ties um, contractually with Nickelodeon to kind of be careful, like what areas they trend in, to where they finally just said, yeah, what you guys suspected throughout that season and throughout the series, and that little moment we had at the end, yeah, those two, they're LGBTQ, they're lesbian, if you will. Now, the comic apparently that continued afterwards built upon that. And I guess Nickelodeon was cool with it because I think Nickelodeon also sponsored the comic or something. I'm not really sure. But yeah, as far as the animated series goes, Nickelodeon, I think, wanted them to be careful of where they trended. Because again, as anybody would tell you, there's a big difference between a comic book adaptation and an animated version. Animated, especially back then, if you try to try to tread the water with certain topics that could be taboo, you got to just be careful. Like you got to throw in Easter eggs or hints to kind of get the message out there. But when it comes to comics, there's a little bit more freedom. But yeah, Legend of Korra did at least acknowledge, especially at the end or after the series was over, that that was the case. But to me, it seems that Shira, the new Shira, pretty much opened the door and said, "Yeah, let's go there. Let's do it." I mean, you look at things like My Little Pony and Friendship is Magic and Equestria Girls, and you might say, "Well, what those were before Shira, right?" Well, yeah, in a sense. Roller Coaster of Friendship came out, I think, during the first couple of seasons of Shira, and that's Equestria Girls. And the way Applejack and Rarity apologize to each other and are next to each other and all that, it gives off LGBTQ vibes. There's no doubt. But when it comes to My Little Pony as a whole, the most initial and obvious LGBTQ couple out there was the characters of Lyra and Bon Bon. And they weren't able to really confirm that, if you will, or acknowledge that until other shows, other properties started to kind of hint at that fact. They started to hint at, yeah, this is, these characters are this way. And I think that's when the people behind Friendship is Magic got the okay by Hasbro to go ahead and do it, especially because it was the last season. even though fans knew for years that these characters were probably more than friends, if you know what I mean. But honestly, I think it's been, but honestly, getting back on topic, I think it's because of the recent, I think it's because of the recent ending for the series, for the Netflix Shira series, in that moment there between Ketra and Adora, that that basically I think opened the floodgates even more so. Um, or it opened the, not the floodgates, but the doors. Excuse my wording there, but the doors even more so for LGBTQ representation to be visually seen, not just in on-screen media like television and movies, but animated television media meant for all ages, not just adults, but for all ages. And you know what's funny is I go back to what's funny is I go back to something Ken Penders once revealed for the Sonic comic after he was gone. He had revealed that Rotor, if you will, in the series, mostly when it came to the Mobius years later stories that he worked on, that Rotor was going to be outed as LGBTQ as well. He was going to be outed as gay because the echidna friend that he had or confidant that he had would have been revealed as being his partner, his life partner, if you know what I mean. Um, so yeah, we probably so yeah, from a massive media, you know, level of outing characters, if Ken would have been allowed to do that in his story before he left, then yeah, that probably would have gotten a lot of publication. That would have gotten a lot of, in my opinion, newsworthy coverage by stating, yeah, a character in the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise has been outed as LGBTQ. But I again, like SpongeBob, I think a lot of people pretty much knew that, or pretty much could guess that maybe the Rotor character, especially in the comics, was probably LGBTQ. He's probably gay, A and everything. And again, I say this with no offense or anything, but they probably could guess that, you know, the way he was, the fact that he was the only character that never really had a real love interest, you know, to have him come out as being the gay character, the LGBTQ character, probably at that time would have gotten a lot of coverage, you know, from a massive media standpoint, online and maybe news wise, because of the fact that the comic was still in its prime. It was still very popular and selling very well. But speaking of the Sonic comics, you want a character that nobody would expect to be LGBTQ. From what Ian Flynn came out and basically acknowledged during a Bumblecast, I don't know, and again, it's debatable, but again, this is Ian Flynn we're talking about. He basically said that the plan for Sally and Nicole was to out them as it being an LGBTQ couple. Basically, and this is the after the soft retcon and reboot post issue 252, that basically had the comic continued, that I guess there was going to be somewhere down the line an issue where Nicole and Sally were going to be outed as being an item, being a couple, and Sally was going to be outed as LGBTQ, at least this version. And I guess the reason is because you could see how, you know, they would interact with each other and all that throughout the main book and even through the Spark of Life story arc and the universe spin-off book, you know, all that kind of jazz. So it wouldn't have been so well, it would have been a surprise because, you know, Sally, the way people would look at her, never really opted her or never really looked at her as being LGBTQ. But I guess Ian decided, you know what, she's close, friend, she's very close with Nicole. Why not go that route with both characters? So yeah, I guess had the book continued, both books that is, Sally and Nicole would have been outed as being an LGBTQ couple. And I don't know if that would have gotten some coverage. It probably would have. Maybe not on the level that the Rhoda one probably would have gotten coverage, but it would have gotten enough coverage to where, yeah, I don't think Sega was going to be cool with it. As a matter of fact, I think once Sega probably got wind that maybe that was being considered, they said, that ain't happening. Cut the book, end the book. They probably told Archie, we're not letting you guys do this, end the book, whatever. Again, I don't know. I don't know. But that's what I can interpret. That's what I can sense. But again, to go along with this topic of Velma and SpongeBob being outed at LGBTQ, again, the question is, will there be more characters? And I was just checking again something there, but will there be more characters that could be outed from shows and franchises that have been around for years, if not decades? Because if you look at certain shows and comics and franchises that have been around for number of years and number of decades, excuse me, there, one could probably say that, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out and say, this character, like Snagglepuss, believe it or not, I think was, or at least it was hinted or rumored that Snagglepuss of Hanna-Barbera Yogi Bear fame was or could be outed as LGBTQ himself. Again, I don't know if that became, I don't know if that was, I don't know if that became actual reality or that was just being hinted at or rumored. But yeah, Snagglepuss is one character. Some could probably say maybe Boo Boo. Some could say Huckleberry. Who knows? There's a lot of characters that would fall under that category, that people can think of. But I, but it's just a matter of when and where more characters of current and previous franchises could be outed by the creators or people that worked on the series as officially being exactly what people suspected them to be, and that's LGBTQ. Again, it's just now a matter of time. It's just a matter of when. I mean, what's funny. What's funny is you look and Wild Hops. I don't know if you're still watching, but what's funny is you look at that tiger in Zootopia. I think his Officer Claw or something like that. Claws. And there's a lot of people that even when that came out, pretty much were saying, yeah, that Claus character at the front desk in Zootopia, at the ZPD, he's LGBTQ. The way he acts and everything, he's LGBTQ. Yeah, he may be a fan of Gazelle, but he's LGBTQ. Again, no offense when I say that, no offense. But people back then even pointed at him being that way. And I wouldn't be surprised if the creators behind the movie said, yeah, you were right on the money. He is. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if they decide, you know what? We may have hinted at maybe Judy and Nick getting together at the end of the film because they're partners and everything now in the ZPD. But, I wouldn't put past the creators to say, well, we didn't officially put them as a couple. So we're going to say that Judy's LGBTQ. And we're also going to say that she has an interest in Gazelle, who's also LGBTQ. Again, I say this with no offense, but like I said, I say this with no offense or anything, but I would not be surprised that, if they don't come out and say that Nick and Judy are a couple, or at least on the verge of being one, or that Gazelle is, is bisexual, in other words, interested in both. Again, I wouldn't put it past them maybe down the line to do that. I wouldn't. I would not put them past them to do that because it would be very. How do I put this? It would get them the news coverage that they would get them the media coverage that they would want, so that they could also come out and promote the Zootopia sequel that's been rumored to be in the works. Again, I wouldn't be surprised. Not saying that's going to happen. And again, I say all of this with no offense. No offense towards anybody. God knows I don't mean any offense. But I would not be surprised. I wouldn't be. I would not be surprised if that was to happen. I wouldn't be. But what do you guys think? What other characters besides, let's say, Velma and Spongebob over the past week and past month, what other characters do you think could be outed as possibly, and again, saying this with no offense, could possibly be outed as LGBTQ? Which ones out? Which other characters throughout shows and franchises of the past couple of years, past decade, past few decades, which ones do you think could be outed? Let me know what you guys think down below. Now, excuse me, I gotta go take care of something real quickly, and I'll be right back. Okay, guys, I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to take care of some things real quickly. I mean, even though it's still daytime, it's getting to that point where it's getting a little dark, and you want to make sure you get everything closed up. If you will get some, kind of get ahead of the curve. It's basically sunset time, so gotta get ahead of the curve, if you will. Take a little bit of a breather there too. Oh, there's more. Don't worry, Ben, and nice to see you in the live chat. But yeah, again, like I said, let me know what you guys think about what other characters do you think from past franchises over the past few years, past decade, past several decades, do you think will finally be outed as LGBTQ just because of the way they were portrayed in the shows or in the comics and all that? Let me know down below. But yeah, over the past week and the past month, of course, characters like Velma, Dinkley, and Spongebob were outed as LGBTQ. Um, Again, I think the reason they were outed mostly was because of not just the fact that last month when SpongeBob was outed as LGBTQ, it was Pride Month, but also I think the reason Velma was also outed is because of the fact that we see we saw with the other shows. We saw, honestly, in my opinion, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, the Netflix streamer show, did at the end, basically coming out and revealing that yes, Adora and Catra, now being redeemed, were more than just friends. So yeah, again, let me know what you guys think and who else do you think could be outed. And of course, Ben, if you're joining, I did talk about characters like, especially from MLP standpoint, like you look at Roller Coaster Friendship and how it's kind of alluded, especially during the apology and making up kind of deal between Rarity and Applejack. In Equestria Girls, Roller Coaster Friendship, how that kind of alludes to the fact of LGBTQ. And then, of course, I mentioned Lyra and Bon Bon, which, of course, was hinted at, if not pretty much visually evidential of them being more than friends, but finally made official in the final season. Because of what's been going on and all that. But let me know what you guys think down below. Prince Adam, I don't know. I mean, it's up to the. That's another good character that could be outed as well, but it's up to the people that worked on the He-Man series originally when it was with Filmation, because the Filmation one is always looked at as being the Filmation version of He-Man is looked at as being LGBTQ, being in that category. But but I think that's gonna, if that does get revealed finally, it's either gonna be revealed uh, by the creators before the new Masters of the Universe series takes place on Netflix, or it's going to be hinted at, if not revealed finally, in the Master of the Universe series that's supposed to take place in the same continuity as the Filmation one. So it's gonna, to me, it's gonna be up to them. It's gonna be up to them, in my opinion. So anyway, let's get on to the next topic here. In the next topic here that we're going to talk about is, of course, the next topic here we're going to talk about is the 2000s comic book film X-Men. Yes, the X-Men film from 2000 as of yesterday and as of this week. And that's my dog coming in. As you see the mic kind of moving a little bit, she's going to her bed right now. Hold on for a second. Move her bed a little bit so she can get comfortable. There we go. But anyway, yeah, the 2000s X-Men film, as of yesterday and of this week, and maybe even this past weekend, and maybe this upcoming weekend, is celebrating 20 years. Yes, it's the 20th anniversary of the original 2000s X-Men film. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, but but I remember honestly going to see this, in the theaters, and I loved it. In fact, I remember watching the trailers in late 99, if you will. I remember watching the trailers in late 99 when I would go and do my computer classes at Independence Inc. Independence Incorporated in Lawrence, Kansas, which helped me, it helped me improve my keyboarding skills and my computer skills. And I remember, like I said, watching the trailer for it, and I was just pumped. I was just pumped for it. Now, originally, it was supposed to come out in May, but it got moved back to June, or July, I should say. I think due to, I don't know if it was the Y2K scare or something. I'm not really sure, but it got moved. But it got moved down to July 14th. And I remember watching it. It wasn't opening. I don't know if it was opening weekend or it was the week after. It was. I think it may have been the week after. I'm not really sure. It may have been opening weekend. I'm not really sure. But I remember seeing it basically when it initially came out, like in the first week or so, and I loved it. Like everybody else, I loved it. I enjoyed it. I went and saw it one more time in the theaters, and it was just great to see. It was finally great to see these characters on the big screen. Really enjoyed it. I think for a lot of us guys, and I say this with all due respect and no offense, but I think for a lot of us guys, one of the main reasons we wanted to see it was Halle Berry as Storm. Like some of us knew about Hugh Jackman, some of us knew about Jason Marsden, and some of us were glad to see them taking on the roles of Cyclops and Wolverine. And some of us, and we were also glad to see Patrick Stewart and Ian McClane doing the role, portraying Xavier and Magneto. It's almost like you couldn't choose better actors to portray those two characters. But for us guys, and again, I say this with all due respect and no offense, one of the main reasons we wanted to see this movie, Halle Berry as Storm. It's like you could not choose a better actress. And I say this with all due respect and no offense. I know I'm repeating myself saying that, but no offense and all due respect. You could not choose a better actress to portray Storm in the movies. You could not. At that time, you could not choose a better actress. I think anybody in the live chat and in the comments section would agree. I mean, Frankie Jensen, I think, as Jean was a great choice. Anna Paquin as Rogue was a great choice. But when it came to Storm, you could not have a better choice there. But yeah, I remember seeing it in the theaters and enjoying it. I remember when they made the announcement for the sequel, going to see it. And instead of seeing it twice on two separate occasions, like once the first time and then the second time, I saw the sequel, which was X2, X-Men United, twice in one day. And that was on opening weekend. And how do I remember this? Because I think it was during the second showing, I was sitting next to a guy, and we saw the ending with the fiery silhouette of the Phoenix in the river after Jean had sacrificed herself. And you hear Jean's voice doing the narration. And we see the Phoenix symbol, or the Phoenix, the fiery silhouette of the Phoenix. And we were all cheering. The entire theater was going like, yeah, yes, Phoenix. Because that's what we've been wanting. And I remember just high-fiving the guy going like, yeah, it's like it was the moment we had been wanting. We had been wanting, verification that the Phoenix was going to show up. Now, unfortunately, when the Phoenix showed up in The Last Stand, it wasn't exactly the way we wanted, but, thankfully it got retconned, according to a lot of people. Thankfully, it got retconned in Days of Future Past, but yeah. I honestly, guys, I don't know what it is when it comes to trying to adapt the Phoenix story. I don't know what it is. It's like, why can't they adapt a good Phoenix story? That's what I'm curious about, aren't you? Why can't they adapt a good Phoenix or Dark Phoenix story? But yeah, again, getting back to the first film, I enjoyed it, and when it was coming out to home media, I had to get it, and I got it initially on VHS. I still have the VHS. I got it on DVD when I finally got a DVD and bought it. I I just could not, and I think X-Men and X2. It may have been just X-Men, but I think the first two films in the franchise, I think they were the only ones that saw a VHS release. Well, the last one was just DVD, and then later on, of course, Blu-ray came around, and of course, you had Blu-ray releases of them, which I did get as well. But yeah, but yeah, the X-Men movies, the first two were the only ones that saw a VHS release before it was strictly just DVD and Blu-ray. But I remember wanting to get the movie, and I did. I got the soundtrack. I don't know what I did with it. I had the soundtrack at one point. I think what happened is I had to sell it. I had to trade it in or sell it to Hastings because I needed some cash. I was low on money. And yeah, it was just one of those situations where I was strapped for cash, so I had to trade in a few of my movies and all that, a few of my items. Shame. It was a shame at that time, but I had to do it. And what's crazy is as of last year, or as at the beginning of this year, or whatever, that Hastings store, which I did work at for a time, for about like a few months in 2004, yeah, that Hastings store is no more. It's gone. It joined the same fate. Because, not to get off topic, but I went to Google's map and to look up the area where I used to live in Lawrence, Kansas. All the jobs I used to work for in that area, in that vicinity of being close to where I lived, they're gone. They're completely gone, out of business or replaced by something else. I know the food fillets I used to work for. I worked for that for about over a year. It went out of business. It went out of business the year I was doing my first year there, and they liked me there. So yeah, so yeah, so yeah. I had to basically sell the soundtrack to get some money and all that. So I had to do things. I had to sell some of my movies and games at the time just to get some cash. But anyway, besides that, what was I? Oh yeah, I bought the movie on VHS. Like I said, I think it and the second film are the only ones that saw a VHS release. But I got on VHS and then later on DVD. When I got a DVD player, I had to get that. Of course, that had to be one of my first movies. And I was happy to get it. But yeah, like I said, I saw it in the theaters. It was a great experience. I remember all the publicity they did with it. I remember the publicity they did for it, and they did the behind the scenes special. I think on Fox and other places. And I do know it's somewhere packed away, unless it got destroyed, unless it's been eaten up by ants or moths or something like that. I know somewhere packed away in that garage, I have the original poster. I have one of the original X-Men posters. I don't know if it's the first. I think it's the first one, and I think it's the second one, but I know I have one of them, if not both, and they're packed away somewhere. But yeah, I remember. But yeah, I remember seeing it, and I think if there's any movie that they need to bring back out to theaters to get people back into theaters, depending on where you live, depending on where you live, especially for drive-ins, it's this movie. You got to bring this. If you're doing the drive-in thing, like my company that I work for is going to be doing drive-ins. I don't know if our location is going to be one of them, which it probably won't be. But if you're doing that, then this is one of the films you got to put on that big screen. 20 years, put it up there for a new generation. and watch them react. Watch their reaction be just as and watch. I guarantee you, watch their reaction be just as great as ours, just as positive as ours were. I mean, heck, they even took. Here's the thing: they took a jab at the yellow jumpsuit or the yellow spandex jumpsuit that Wolverine's known for. They took a jab at that in the movie. Um, but yeah, I just loved watching that film, and you know, as a treat to myself to help celebrate it, I got the first two films on streaming finally. I basically went online and bought them on streaming so I can watch them on my Vudu uh, app, my Amazon Prime app, on my Movies Anywhere app. I can watch them. So, so I I kind of contributed to the celebration that way. But I know when people talk about this film, they are hoping that when the MCU, Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe finally brings in the X-Men, that'll be just as good as what we got with this film. I think people are looking at this one and hoping that Disney will replicate this in a bigger, better way than I think anybody could imagine. And as far as Ben's question goes, you know, what characters would I like to see in the upcoming X-Men movies? Of course, basically, the character you got to have the core cast, in my opinion. You got to have Cyclops, you got to have Wolverine, you got to have Jean Grey, you got to have Storm, you got to have Iceman, you got to have Rogue, you got to have Beast. You got to have Xavier, of course, and heck, you got to have Emma Frost, in my opinion. Heck, I'm looking around here. Heck, I would throw in as a surprise, maybe for the hardcore fans. I would throw in uh, Poralis. Poralis. She was an X Men. She's mostly known for X Force, but I would throw in Poralis. I would throw her in. Who else would I would throw in? I would throw in Kitty Pryde. I would definitely bring her in. Trying to look at some of the figures I have here of X Men that I think could go in there. Like I said, I'd throw in Polaris. Let's see who else is here. Oh, I would. Okay, X-23, of course. I would throw in Dazzler, if you will. I'd throw her in. Let's see, who else do I have? Let's see. I would throw in. Well, she's Guardians of the Galaxy, but I think if there's any other kind of MCU property you could throw her in, I put in Marvel's Angela. I would throw her in there. I would throw in, let's see, Volcana. I think that's what her name was, Volcana. Hold on for a sec. Let me something real quickly. I would Like I said, I would throw in Volcana. I think that's her name. What other characters are there? Let me see. Well, of course, one of the characters, I think from a villain perspective, that you have to throw in there to join Magneto is you would have to throw in the Blob, of course, Sabretooth, of course, from a villain perspective. You have to throw in Pyro because one of the things I will say about um, the second X-Men film and the second X-Men film hinted at in the first, but mostly with the second X-Men film and into the third, I would have to say Pyro and Iceman's rivalry. You have to build upon, you have to have him in there. If you're gonna have Iceman, Bobby Drake, you have to have Pyro in there. I think Psylocke is a good character as well. Would be a good choice. Let's see. Trying to look up something here. Let's see. Well, Mercury, I don't know if he. Let's see who Mercury is here. I would say Mercury could be a good character. Cause can you imagine what they would do with CGI when it would? Can you imagine the technology with the Mercury character that they could do in the movies? Her name is Cecily Kincaid. Cecily Kincaid, I think. So can you imagine what they could do with Mercury in this? So I could see maybe her character in there. So yeah, see, we got we got Vincent, Vincente, yeah, Vincente. We got you can. It's Vincente. He's a character you could throw in there. So yeah, there's a lot of characters they can throw in there. No doubt about that. Let's see. We have. Oh, of course, Nightcrawler. You gotta have Nightcrawler in there. Um, let's see. CBR says they have the most powerful mutant, but who? Let's see who that is. Oh, Franklin Richards. That could probably be a character you could bring in, but that's Fantastic Four. So could be interesting if they bring him into the because that could be interesting. They bring him into the X-Men films, and then maybe he can jump into the Fantastic Four films down the line. But yeah, there's a bunch of characters that honestly I think could really benefit from being in the MCU version of the X-Men. But I think it's up in the air right now. But again, looking back at this, I'm pretty sure a lot of people are hoping, that Disney takes notes, and Disney and most of the Marvel Studios takes notes and says, you know what, people love the 2000 film. Let's try to replicate that, but do it do it in a way that pays tribute, but also is original as well, in my opinion. But yeah, the 2000. But getting back to, but yeah, the 2000 film, really enjoyed it, and again, I remember just seeing it on the big screen, loving it, and it's been one of my favorite films ever since. As a matter of fact, for my return of the movies of the month category, for my movie of the month series that I've been going back to over the past couple of months, I recently, and you can see it here on my YouTube channel, I recently added it as the July 2020 movie of the month in time for its 20th anniversary. So it's a good film, and I even ended up getting the comic book. I even have it still. I have the comic book adaptation of it. Yeah, I have the comic book adaptation of it. So that's how much I liked it. Okay, just to answer this one question. What am I? Somebody asked me. What are my thoughts on the remainder of the Ducktales season 3? I don't really know. I mean, I know. I mean, from what one of my friends online has said, is we're supposed to see the return of the Rescue Rangers. I know we got Kit and Molly still to come from Tailspin. So my guess is it's going to, for the remainder of the season, is grab your popcorn and have a seat. You're going to be in for a good time. So that's my thoughts on the remainder of this season for DuckTales. All right, so next topic. Next topic is HDMI cables to replace the original cables for SNES, Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx 16, PS2, PlayStation 2, etc. Okay, now you're probably watching. Hopefully, if you're still here with me, you're probably watching, listening, and wondering, okay, what do you mean by HDMI cables to replace the original cables for those consoles? Well, in case you guys don't know, Hyperkin and companies like Hyperkin and Level Hike have, and other companies as well, but mostly Hyperkin and Level Hike have created and distributed over the past year or so, if not recently, cables that will basically replace your AV audio cables, or your RF cables, if you will, and allow you to play your classic consoles on your screen. Now, what this means basically is, you won't have to be now. What this means, from what I could tell, is you won't have to be relying on something like a Retron 5 to basically play your games on HDMI, on high definition. What this means is you'll basically be playing them as they are. In other words, as they were always meant to be. And again, what I mean by the fact that that Hyperkin and Level Hike, uh, are doing with this, what doing with these HDMI cables, is they're basically taking, if I can get it right here, this is from the PS2. They're basically taking this right here, and they're replacing it. They're replacing it with, basically, HDMI version. And you might say, what, the whole thing? The whole thing? Like, oh, it's going to be just like that, except it's going to be HDMI? Well, not exactly. Let me show you what I mean. If I can, let me get my phone here for a second. Well, let me show you what I mean here. Here's the one. Let me show you what I mean. Just checking something there again. But this is what I mean. This here, this is one of the items I bought recently. It's supposed to come tomorrow, hopefully. But this is the order I recently did. I don't know if you guys can see that real well. Let me check if we can see that. I guess not. Let me. Well, maybe you can see it now. But that's basically the order I recently did. Again, I don't know if you guys can really see it that well. But yeah, that's the order I recently did. And these items here, the two cable ones, if you could see those are by a level hike. So I'm gonna press on one of them. This here, again, I don't know if you guys can really see it that well. This is the one for the. I don't know if you can read the. Oh, getting over here. This is the Turbo Graphics one. That's what. Oh, the picture went out. Sorry about that. But this is for the Turbo Graphics. Yeah. Have a good night, Ben. But anyway, this is for the Turbo Graphics, and you can tell it's for the Turbo Graphics because we're gonna get a bigger picture here. Right here, this is for the Turbo Graphics 16. I don't think the word can come in real clearly, but anyway, this is for the Turbo Graphics 16, and basically this cable here, this big box here, right here, that allows you to take an HDMI cable like this here, the HDMI cable, and connect it to your TV. It kind of shows you exactly what it does. It shows you exactly what it does there. And that's basically what it is right there. Like that's the first cable, and you can kind of tell how it's connected. And then it shows you basically there's a comparison shot of one side being the original output and the one being the HDMI one, and it shows you that it gets a little bit clearer, if you will, over time. But then that's what they're talking about right there. That's what they're talking about. That's what it all looks like. That's everything that comes with it. You got the HDMI cable. You got the thing. You got the HDMI cable. You got the thing right there, and then you got a USB cable. There we go. You got a USB cable in the middle, which is supposed to help power it on. Like if you have like if you have a USB port in your on your TV, it's supposed to help with that. Now, again, that's the one I bought, and the same goes for the Super Nintendo as well. For the Super Nintendo, which is another one I bought, it's the same way. It's basically it's the same kind of box, like you say, it's the same kind of box there, and all that with the HDMI. Basically, the same kind of instructions and all that right there. And it kind of shows you, depending on the model of the Super Nintendo that you have, what kind of Nintendo can work with. Basically, if you have the new one, it can work with it if it's an RGB modified version. And then again, it shows you the difference in picture quality when it comes to the games. And that's basically all it shows you there. But it's essentially the same thing. It's essentially the same thing as the. It basically is the same. Like I said, it's the same thing. It's essentially the same thing as the TurboGrafx one. And from those that have reviewed it, they have said that you can use this as well. You can use this device here as well with your N64 and your GameCube, even if they sell versions for the versions of those for those systems, or even if Level Hike and Hyper can sell these for them individually, you can still use this for those as well, from what I understand. Now, they have one for the Sega Saturn as well. If you have a Sega Saturn, that one right there is for the Saturn. And then, of course, they have one for the Dreamcast, which I probably plan to get later as well. And then I think I may have to look at my queue here for a second. Hold on, guys. Yeah, here we go. This is the one that I'm talking about for the PlayStation 2. It even says it for the PlayStation 2 and the PlayStation 1 actually. See right there. And again, same kind of instructions, if you will. And it's basically, like I said, it's basically this end connected to that box. That's what it is. It's just connected to that box there. It's this connected to the box. And then again, it shows you the kind of models it can work with, of course, when it comes to both systems. And of course, it shows you the clarity of the pictures compared to the original audio video. And that's about it. But basically, like I said, it's essentially basically what you normally have with your system. It's essentially this, but what's replacing it is this is connected to a box, an HDMI adapter box, where you get the HDMI and you connect the HDMI to it. And then if it's powered basically. Hold on for a second. But yeah, if it's powered basically by or has to be powered by a USB cord or USB power adapter, then what you could do. For a sec. Sorry about that. But what you could do, as I get my thing adjusted here, but what you could do is actually take one of these, which is an AC adapter, and plug it into the back of one of those. And if you have, like, let's say, an outlet like I do, or a device, basically it's a a mini surge protector like what I do, then you can plug it into that, hopefully without disconnecting anything. But yeah, basically, like I said, Level Hike and Hyperkin, they're coming out with these devices that are allowing you to now play your games as you would normally on a regular CRTV or CTV or whatever it is. CRTV, or an old school TV. It's now allowing you to be able to play them on your HDMI based on your HDMI television, whether it's 4K, 1080p, or even 720. You can now play the games thanks to these devices on those systems. And again, you can play them as they are. You don't have to worry about getting something like um, a red a Retron 5 or anything like that, where when you stick the game in there, it's not basically the game being played off the cartridge as is. It's just basically taking the file, ripping it, and then ripping it basically and putting it into an emulation. So in other words, basically nothing's being read off the cart as it should. It's just now being saved as a file for emulation when you play the game. But yeah, basically Level Hike and Hyperkin, and along with some other companies, are doing this. But mostly, like I said, the two notable ones, or one of the notable ones, is Hyperkin, along with Level Hike. And from what I've been able to read and watch online, these are people are getting very positive results out of these, because this is something that honestly, folks, should have been done a long, long time ago. It should have been done a long, long time ago. When the concepts of the Retrons and the Retron 5s and all that were being talked about, this should have been talked about a long time ago. This is something that should have been in the works for a long time, not just something that popped up in the past few years. This should have been like right then and there. This should have been, like I said, right then and there, when the whole retro systems came into play, like the whole NES Mini, SNES Minis, Turbo Mini, Sega Genesis Mini, Coleco Mini, whatever. This kind of an idea should have been up and going long before that. Because even though, yes, the SNES and the SNES and NES Minis are great, and so is the Genesis Mini, and probably the TurboGrafx one as well, honestly, they are very limited in what they installed. Now obviously you can modify them and add more games. And there's that. But if you have a whole collection and you don't want to go through that painstaking process, in my honest opinion, of having to modify your system, then this is something that I think is going to be beneficial. And again, like I said, this should have been out before the announcement of these mini consoles was even made. So that way people wouldn't have to rely on mini consoles. They could just play the games on their TV as they originally did on their older TVs. And that's the truth. That is the truth. So it's just, again, I just feel this is something that they could have, that everybody could have benefited from long ago, not in the past year or so. But basically, before the minis were even announced, they could have really benefited from this. And I think Level Hike and Hypokin and some of the other companies behind it, but mostly those two, I think, have come up with the best solution. Now, Hypokin, of course, is behind things like the Retron 77, the Retron 5. That's great and everything, but obviously they saw that people may be buying them, but sales aren't as good as they would hope, and maybe someone said, you know what? I bet you if we created this, just like Level Hike's doing, it's going to sell. These HDMI cables that they can connect to the old school systems. And lo and behold, look what's going on. Look what's happening. So, in my opinion, I think these are great devices. I think these are great accessories, especially if you're an old school fan and you like playing your classic cartridge games. I think these are great accessories, in my opinion. I really like it. I really do. And I I cannot wait. Honestly, folks, I cannot wait to get my hands on two of them tomorrow. And you will see me unpack them, hopefully, doing a package opening video tomorrow, possibly after work, as I do have to work tomorrow. But you will see me open them, and you probably will see, hopefully, if things work out, you will see some footage right here on YouTube. But yeah, these are things that they should have been done a long time ago, in my opinion. They should have been utilized a long time ago. They should have been made a long time ago. And that's all I can say, because, again, nothing against the mini consoles that came out. They're great. And I enjoy them. I really do. I just got to get the turbo one to complete the collection so far. Maybe even the Intellivision and Coleco ones. I think those two are out as well. But honestly, folks, with no offense towards any of them, these are things that should have happened. These HDMI devices for the Super Nintendo, TurboGrafx, PS2, Dreamcast, whatever, they should have been done a long time ago. And that is the truth. That's the absolute truth. But that's all I'm going to say on it, though, guys. Now, let's get on to our final topic. Go on to our final topic here. Let's go on to our final topic as I go here to Facebook for a second. Oh, there you go. Okay, so our final topic, ladies and gentlemen, is kind of a questionable topic that a lot of friends online have been asking me for a while. And that is, why don't I watch movies or read comic books when I initially get them? Whether I buy them myself or they're given to me. Well, as a final topic, question topic, if you will, that is a good question. And it's a question I'm sure I'm not the only one that gets asked that. But the reason I don't watch a movie all the way through initially when I get it is mainly because of the fact that, sometimes I just want to. Sometimes I'll be eating, like, let's say I have my drink here, which is Starbucks, and let's say I have something to eat, like I'm going to get some dinner in a little bit. Sometimes I just like to sit back and watch the movie, watch a part of the movie a little bit while I enjoy my dinner. But then after a bit, after I eat my dinner, finish up, relax a little bit, I'll turn it off, and then maybe when I feel like it, I'll come back to it. Because if there's one thing I will say about a lot of movies recently, There are a few exceptions. There are a few exceptions. There was this one thing I can say about movies recently over the past several years is when you buy the movie and they come with that code that you put in, mostly at Movies Anywhere now. It allows you to basically watch the movie, and then if you don't feel like sitting through it initially, it allows you to stop it where it's at and resume where it's at. So for me, I'm just one of those people that's like, either I'll watch it because I want to eat something. Like today, I was watching Sonic while I was relaxing, kind of digesting some of my brunch, if you will. And first of all, I did watch it initially when I got it, and the part that I left off on initially before today was, like I said, when Robotnik sent these drones after Sonic, and Sonic had to leave his burrow to try to go to the mushroom world, where Longclaw had said you need to go to if anything comes up. I think that's her name. So anyway, I ended up watching some of it today as well, and I like it so far. I'm basically at the part where he's encountered Tom, I think that's his name, for the first time, and that's James Morrison's character. And when James said, "Okay, come with me, I'll help you out," he agrees to help him, and he tells him to follow him. You have Sonic basically just go blink, run to the ground, and says, "A little help here, please." You know, because what happened is he shot him with the tranquilizer, right? Tranquilizer dart, so it's slowing up his speed. He can't move. His legs are, as he puts it, spaghetti. If you will. But yeah, I kind of take my time with it a little bit. Like I'm also watching the '86 Transformers movie, which of course my family and sisters would say I've watched a million times already, over a million times. So I'm watching that at times. I'm watching the MLP 2017 movie, the X-Men movies, the ones I told you I purchased, stuff like that. I take my time a little bit, just kind of have a little glimpse here and there, just, to you know, kind of enjoy myself, kind of give myself a bit of variety a little bit. And I understand some people are like, well, if you're going to watch something, why don't you watch it all the way through? Again, it's just, again, I could. I'm not saying I couldn't, but it's just one of those things where you just want to savor it for like a later time. Like if I want to watch the rest of the Sonic movie, let's say on the weekend, I'm going to do that. But there are other reasons I also take my time, because either I get home from work and I'm tired, and if I watch it, I might start falling asleep, so I don't want to fall asleep during it, so I'll just stop it before I fall asleep. Or basically, something will come up and I have to stop it right then and there. Or I might be asked to do something and I have to stop it. So I don't want to get into something and then have to be interrupted and all that. So what I do is I take my time. A lot of people, believe it or not, actually do this, especially if they have streaming or if they have the physical media, they do this. Because when you look at some of the Blu-ray, 4K Blu-rays, and even DVD players, a lot of them have that option to restart where you left off. There are several times I'll put on a movie for my family, for my mom, I should say, while she enjoys her dinner in the living room. And when I put it on, especially if it's a movie that she didn't get to finish, because either she'll get a phone call from my sister who likes to talk, who calls her every few days to see how she's doing, kind of chat up on what's going on, stuff like that. Um, you know, one of the benefits is the Blu-ray player, mostly the movie, will have the option to resume where it left off. So let's say my mom is watching something like Godspell, which is one of her favorite movies that just came out on Blu-ray about couple months ago in time for Easter. They say she's watching Godspell, but then she gets interrupted and she can't finish it. But then she'll pop the movie back in, or she'll have me put the movie back into the player later on, like maybe the next day or something, and I'll press play, or it'll automatically come up and say, "You want to resume where you left off?" There you go, and that's the benefit. That's the benefit that a lot of people have with that, along with streaming. Basically, it'll help you. Movies will allow you to, and it all depends on the player. It allows you to resume where you left off. So that's why sometimes I don't always sit through it, because I know I can just, resume, where I left off. You know, I mean, I always have the intention to finish it, but again, it all depends of how I'm feeling at that time, and everything. And as far as like the Sonic movie goes, I'm gonna finish that. There's no doubt. Again, I'm already at the part where he had to put him into the attic because Robotnik's in the property area right now looking for him. And the last scene I saw before I clicked off is Robotnik doing this with his hand. He's scanning the area with his hand, with his glove. So basically, I'm at that part, and I'm also, and I now kind of know how he lost his rings, because one of the things I hear people talk about is the fact that he lost his rings in San Francisco, and now we see exactly how he lost them, because when he's holding the ring that takes him to the next world, he's got to say that world's name so it can open up. He says San Francisco after he gets tranquilized, and the ring opens up a portal to San Francisco, and the bag of rings falls right through to it. So yeah, I'm taking my time with it. That's what I'm doing. I'm also gonna, the same thing will be like for Scoob and all that. So it's more like pacing yourself. It's more like pacing yourself, because the more you pace yourself, the more you'll actually enjoy it. The more you actually enjoy it, because you don't want to keep getting up maybe and having to pause the movie to either go to the bathroom or take care of something or whatever, and then have to come back and pause it and everything, and just to try to finish it. What you want to do is try to finish it at your own time and your own pace. Now, I know when it comes to theatrical watching movies in the theaters, that's not the case. You got to sit right through that one sitting, and I understand that. But sometimes, but that's the benefit of the home. You can take your time. You can, pace yourself, if you will. You can pace yourself. Sorry about that. I had to finish that. But like I said, you can pace yourself when you're watching that film. You can take your time with it. And the same goes with comic books or even books of any kind. You can pace yourself with those. You don't have to read them all in one sitting, even if they're 24, 25 pages. You can take your time and pace yourself out. And that's what you can do. You can say, okay, I'm going to put a mark here or a bookmark or something, and I'll be done with it. For example, my most recent book that I got, The Elements of Harmony, Volume 1. If I feel like reading it like this, going through doing this, like reading this page, if you will, and then, reading that page. So let's say I read up to, let's say where rarity, let's say I read, after, let's say this page with Cadence and Shining Armor, is the last page I read, and then the next page is about the Ponyville ponies. What I could do is I could say, okay, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to shut it. I'll know where I left off, right? Or what I could do is I can get something to mark where it's at. Now I'm not going to bend the pages. I'm not going to do that, but I could put something right there to like be like, okay, I know where I was and everything, and then there you go. I can do that. Like I said, I can do that. I don't have to, sit through it in one sitting. That's the entire thing. I don't have to sit through it in one sitting. I can take my time. I can pace myself. I can pace myself with reading it. The same goes with, you're listening to something like, let's say, of course, let's see, hold on. Of course, like with anybody, I have Spotify, right? And come on, pop up. Like right here, this is my work travel. These are some of my playlists, right? So here's my work travel playlist. It's right here. Work travel 2000. I mean, work travel 2020. This is my playlist, right? This here is my work travel 2020 playlist. Now that's all the songs and everything I have on there. It's a lot of songs, right? Well, let's say I listen to it. Like if I have to sometimes go out and help with the carts at work, I can listen to it. I can put on my wireless headphones, or one of them at least, and just adjusting the mic there, and I could listen to. I can listen to. I can listen to the songs that I have, and I can listen to it while I'm helping with the carts. But do I have to listen to the entire playlist all the way through in that one play? No. Or that during that time I'm outside, do I have to listen to the entire playlist? No, because I I'm not going to be out in the heat or something like that doing carts all day, and the other because I have breaks and everything. But even if so, I want to change it up. Sometimes I'll decide to go and search up, let's say, a podcast like Jason Solomon Onsta Sounds Off, Jason Solomon's Sounds Off podcast, or the Just Alex's World podcast. I could switch over to those and listen to those. I don't have to listen to my playlist all day. I can take my time. That's what I can do. You know, well, the Ducktales series I do still have to catch up on. And again, that's the benefit about on demand too. On demand, like streaming, allows you to watch it at any time. I have Disney Plus, so I can watch it any time I want and take my time with it so I can thoroughly enjoy it. I mean, the one episode I definitely want to go back and watch is the Double O Duck one because it has the Rescue Rangers. And that's the one thing I do have to look at with these new episodes coming, especially with the Disney Afternoon characters. I definitely got to watch those. That's just me. I have to watch those, and I am going to watch the rest. It's just going to take a lot of time, especially like I said, when you have work again, no offense when I say this, okay? All due respect, no offense. But when you have what's known as an essential job like I do, and you are ending up being busy like yesterday it was like nonstop. Like the past few days have been like nonstop, even for someone like me that's getting the shorter hours. It's like you can't it's like you can't really focus on anything else than getting those customers out. And then when you want to get home, you just want to relax. I mean, yesterday I fell asleep. I was asleep for a very long time. I was out. Period. I mean, I was asleep even when my mom and my nephew both went to sleep. When they went to sleep, I was already sleeping. So, I'm gonna watch them. It just takes time, and it's up to how I feel. And again, that goes back to the Sonic the Hedgehog thing. The Wally Wonderland, I gotta look that up, guys. I gotta look that up. Hold on, because it's Frank. Frank Hill just mentioned that. Let me see what that is. Oh, oh, it's a Nicolas Cage film, and it's going to be a horror film with animatronics coming to life to go on a murder spree, I guess. I don't know about that one. I don't know about that one. That's going to be interesting. But like I said, I just take my time with it. Is what I do. I take my time. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, and I don't mean any disrespect by that, because I want to sit through. I want to do it all. I do want to watch a movie in one sitting, but again, it all depends on how I feel. It all depends on how I feel. I mean, the fact that I'm doing a live stream right now, you know, that's saying something, because it's like I said, and it's like I've said in some of my videos in the past. It's an opportunity that I have to take. I have to capitalize on. I have to take advantage of, because I don't always get an opportunity like this every day. I don't, and that's the truth. The only closest I get to an opportunity like this is during my lunch hours, with my by utilizing my phone and all that, and the live stream, and doing a live stream or a recording to upload during work on YouTube. And sometimes I have to make sure that the area I want to film in is unoccupied. Like, we have the park across the street from the back of my store, and sometimes if I'm lucky enough, it won't be occupied by anybody, and I'll be able to do a video there or a live stream. But then sometimes when people are around, I have to be careful about how I do it. Like I'm doing this, if you will, and all of a sudden somebody's walking or driving, I have to do this, especially if I'm doing a live stream, so they don't get suspicious, like, okay, are you filming me? Are you doing this? Whatever. Or if I'm using the camera, the video option on the camera to, do a video, and I have to pause, I pause basically because people sometimes have been known to be trolls or jerks that will honk the horns or yell out the windows while you're trying to do a recording. And that's not cool. That's not cool, in my opinion. But point is, it's about pacing yourself. It's about pacing yourself out and doing, and basically, it's basically about pacing yourself so that you can enjoy what you're watching or what you're reading. You know, better. You can basically, what I'm trying to get at is, it's about pacing yourself so that you can enjoy enjoy what you're watching or what you're reading more than you could probably in one sitting. Because again, you never know what could come up. And that's the truth. And that's why I'm taking my time with the Sonic movie. That's why I'm gonna take my time with the Scoob movie. That's why I'm taking my time, rewatching some of my favorites, like the '86 Transformers film, or the 2017 My Little Pony, or even the X-Men films. I take my time, that way I can enjoy it. I pace myself so I can enjoy them better. And once I'm done with the Sonic movie, hopefully soon, I'll be able to come out and do a review of it right here on my channel. But like I said, it's just how it's just my own personal decision to go that route. And I'm not the only one that does it. Again, I'm not the only one that does it. Though, like I said, my mom at times will take her time watching a movie she may have DVR'd, or she didn't finish watching on DVD, Blu-ray, and she'll ask me to put the Blu-ray back into the disc, and hopefully it'll have the option to resume where it left off. So, stuff like that. And the same with a book. Like I said, I just showed you an example with the Equestria, the Elements of Harmony book. I could stop, I could stop reading the book after I read the page with Cadence and Shining Armor, and then I could just, mark it, like put a mark there, a bookmark there or something of where to start next, which would be like with the Ponyville Ponies. But again, it's all about pacing yourself, in my opinion. Not that you can't enjoy a movie in one sitting, you could. I have many times. It's just that right now, times have changed, and I think that's the benefit of the streaming apps. What I'm trying to say, that's the benefit of the streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus and Hulu and Amazon and Vudu and all that. It allows you to pace yourself as much as you want. You could stop it in one area and then come back to it later. So that's that's why I don't watch them. That's why I don't finish everything in one sitting. Or I don't watch or watch a movie or read a comic initially. When I get them initially. You know, I mean, the thing is, I will watch them a little bit, but I won't watch them fully. I'll just, be more in that pace kind of mode, and I'm sure a lot of you can understand that. So again, in closing up this topic, I don't mean no offense. I appreciate those that have helped me by sending me stuff, movies and all that, movies and comics and all that I can enjoy. But I have to take my time with them. I have to pace myself out. And don't worry, I'm gonna finish some of the movies that were given to me, and I'm gonna talk about them as much as I can. But it's all about pacing yourself, and that's what I'm doing. And the more you pace yourself, the more you'll enjoy something. So hopefully that answered the question of why I don't watch movies or read comics when I initially get them. And that will pretty much wrap up this Wednesday night mid-week edition of Topics on My Mind. Probably the longest one I've done in quite some time, clocking in at almost 2 hours, 45 minutes. But again, thank you all for watching. Really appreciate it. Again, let me know what you all think down below. Take your time in watching this. But yeah, that's all I'm gonna say, guys. Thank you for joining me in the live stream. Once again, I don't mean any offense about. I don't mean. Once again, before I leave, I want to say that I don't mean any offense. With all due respect, I don't mean any offense to any LGBTQ people or anything like that. I was just giving my opinion on the articles that came out about Velma and Spongebob and other characters that may have been outed or could be outed in the future as LGBTQ. So that's all I'm going to really say, guys, though. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Comment down below. Thank you for joining me in the live chat. And you all have a good evening. And I am out.